Why is it that when we think of a European knight, we picture brutal armor and a heavy sword? But when we think of a samurai, we picture a philosopher? What did they possess that transformed mere warriors into global icons? The secret lies not in how they fought, but in how they lived. From the internal discipline of Bushido to their shocking transformation, from battlefield killers into peaceful lawmakers, the story of the samurai is far more complex and fascinating than pop culture ever taught you. Let's dive in. Section 1. Introduction. Why the world is obsessed with the samurai. Did you know that the katana is often called the most perfect weapon in history? It is true. People all over the world love the samurai. You see them in movies, video games, and anime everywhere. But why? What makes them so special to Western audiences? Think about it for a second. Western history is full of famous warriors. We have Roman gladiators, Viking raiders, and European knights. They were incredibly strong. They were dangerous. Yet they do not have the same mysterious charm as the samurai. Why is that? When people in the West think of a samurai, they do not just see a soldier. They see someone with deep focus. They see an artist. They see a calm mind in the middle of a storm. Here is a question for you. Why do you think the samurai captured the global imagination so deeply? Is it the beautiful armor, the deadly sword, or something hidden deeper inside their culture? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Let us find out what made them truly unique. Section 2. The inward code versus the outward moral Bushido and chivalry. When Westerners try to understand the samurai, they often compare them to European knights. It feels natural, right? Both were elite warriors. Both served a master, and both followed a strict code of conduct. For knights, it was chivalry. For samurai, it was Bushido. But beneath the surface, these two paths were completely different. Chivalry was an outward philosophy. It was heavily shaped by Christian morality. It told knights how to act toward others. Love your neighbor. Protect the weak. Defend the church. It was about public duty and honor. Bushido, however, was an inward training exercise. It did not start with a universal religion. Instead, it was a unique blend. It took Zen Buddhism, Confucianism, and the harsh reality of war. Bushido asked a different question. Not just how do I treat others, but how do I control myself? It focused on deep self-restraint. It demanded absolute sacrifice and daily discipline. It was not about putting on a show for society. It was a silent internal battle, me versus me, every single day. Section 3. The book that changed everything, Bushido, the Soul of Japan. Did you know that the West had no idea what Bushido was until the year 1900? It is true. For centuries, the samurai code was a complete mystery to foreigners. But then one man changed everything. His name was Inazo Nitobe. He was a Japanese scholar, and he did something very surprising. He wrote a book called Bushido, the Soul of Japan. But here is the real twist. He did not write it in Japanese. He wrote it entirely in English. Why? Because he wanted to explain his country to the Western world. He wanted to show that Japan had its own deep sense of morality. The success of the book was incredible. It became an instant bestseller in America and Europe. In fact, it was so influential that President Teddy Roosevelt read it. He loved it so much that he bought copies for all his friends. Top leaders used this book to finally understand the mindset of Japan. But here is the funniest part of the story. The book became famous in the West first. Only after its global success was it finally translated back into Japanese. Can you believe that? The very concept that defines Japan today was introduced to the modern world in English. Section 4. An invented tradition. The fluid evolution of Bushido. We often think of Bushido as an ancient law. We imagine it was carved in stone, frozen in time forever. But history tells a very different story. A famous British historian named Eric Hobsbawm came up with a fascinating phrase. He called it an invented tradition. What does that mean? It means that Bushido was not a fixed, unchanging rule book. The word itself was first mentioned around the 1600s. But back then, it did not mean what it means today. Its definition was fluid. It was dynamic. For generations, the Japanese people were trying to figure out what it meant. As the country changed from bloody civil wars to long periods of peace, the code had to change too. Samurai themselves picked and chose how they wanted to relate to it. The widespread use of the word did not actually happen until the Meiji period. It was constructed, adapted, and redefined over time. to fit the needs of a modernizing nation. So Bushido is not a cold relic of the past. It was a living, breathing concept that evolved over generations. It was a mirror of Japan's journey into the modern world. Section 5. From warriors to bureaucrats. The 250-year peace. What happens to a legendary warrior when the war finally ends? This was the ultimate question for the samurai. During the chaotic Sengoku period, their only job was to fight. They were masters of violence. But then the Tokugawa era arrived, bringing 250 years of absolute peace. Suddenly, there were no more battles. There were no enemies left to defeat, no castles to conquer. So what did the samurai do with their deadly swords? Did they disappear? Not at all. Instead, they adapted. Because they already held positions of high respect and authority, their role shifted completely. They went from warriors to bureaucrats. They traded the chaotic battlefield for the quiet office. They became the lawmakers, the school teachers, and the administrators of society. This transition is incredibly unique in world history. They did not just sit around waiting for the next war. They found a new purpose. They realized that maintaining a peaceful nation required just as much discipline as winning a bloody war. Section 6. The pen and the sword. The responsibility of the educated elite. In many cultures, history is filled with aristocrats who stepped on the lower classes. They kept all the knowledge for themselves. They used gatekeeping to protect their power. They spent their time enjoying luxury while regular people suffered. But the samurai chose a very different path during the peace. They became the most educated class in Japan. They learned to read. They learned to write. They mastered beautiful poetry and philosophy, yet they did not hide this knowledge away. They took their status as a deep responsibility. They used their literacy to build up the entire nation. They helped guide the country and improve the lives of the people around them. They truly believed that the pen was just as mighty as the sword. Here is another question for you. How does this compare to the elite classes in your own country's history? Did your historical leaders share their knowledge to build up society, or did they keep it hidden away to protect their power? Let me know in the comments below. Section 7. Death as integrity. The Western misconception of seppuku. Now we must look at a darker side of the samurai culture. It is the ritual suicide known as seppuku, or harakiri. To a Western audience, this act seems shocking and hard to understand. Why would anyone choose to end their own life so painfully? To understand this, we must look at the massive clash of cultures. In Western history, heavily shaped by Christian theology, suicide was strictly looked down upon. It was considered the ultimate sin. It was seen as deeply selfish. Why? Because life was a gift from God. Ending it meant turning your back on His grace. In the West, suicide brought permanent shame to the family name. But in Japan, the context was entirely different. There was no Christian tradition here. Instead, deeply influenced by Zen and Confucianism, the samurai believed in absolute personal responsibility. To them, seppuku was not an act of despair. It was an act of supreme integrity. If a warrior made a critical mistake, they did not wait for punishment. They punished themselves to clear their family of shame. It was a highly ritualized clinical process. It was done with extreme discipline and calm presence. In a twisted way, it was the ultimate proof of an inward-facing mind. It showed that you owned your destiny, your body and your honor until the very last breath. Section 8. Dexterity over brute force. The technical warrior in pop culture. Let us look at modern pop culture for a moment. Think about famous video games like Ghost of Tsushima or Ghost of Yotei. How are the samurai depicted? In almost every game, their dexterity level is incredibly high. They are fast. They are nimble. They use quick, perfect movements. Now, compare that to a European crusader or a knight in armor. In video games, knights usually have high strength. They carry a massive warhammer or a giant, heavy sword. Their fighting style is about brute force. It is about overpowering the enemy with pure weight. Is this just a modern misunderstanding? Surprisingly, no. It actually has a real historical basis. In Europe, battlefield combat often turned into a brutal wrestling match. Knights would bash each other with heavy weapons until someone got too tired to stand. But for the samurai, sword. Fighting evolved into an incredibly technical art form. The focus was on speed, precision, and perfect timing. You did not win by being the heaviest. You won by being the sharpest, the fastest, and the most technically skilled. Section 9. The philosophy of combat mindset in Japanese martial arts manuals. This focus on precision was not just about physical training. It ran much deeper into the mind. Centuries ago, legendary masters wrote historical combat manuals. One famous book is the Heiho Kadensho. Another is the legendary Book of Five Rings, written by the famous swordsman Miyamoto Musashi. If you read these books, you will find something deeply surprising. They do not just teach you how to cut down an enemy. They do not just show you how to take off a head easily. Instead, they read like philosophy books. They focus heavily on the mindset of the warrior. Musashi wrote about being free from all mental distractions. He taught that a frozen mind is a dead mind. You must achieve a state of no mind or mushin. European manuals existed too, of course, but they mostly focused on practical wrestling, moves, or half-swording techniques. They were manual guides for a physical brawl, but Japanese sword fighting was taught in a much more poetic, psychological manner. To the samurai, mastering the sword was the exact same thing as mastering your own soul. The battlefield was just the ultimate test of your internal peace. Section 10. Conclusion. The enduring legacy of the philosopher warrior. So what is the ultimate legacy of the samurai today? The samurai period ended long ago, but their spirit did not disappear. In fact, many historians believe their transformation, from warriors to bureaucrats, shapes modern Japan. Think about the incredible work ethic of the Japanese people today. The deep focus, the absolute dedication to the group, the intense self-restraint. In the past, a samurai dedicated his entire life to his lord, the daimyo. Today, that identical loyalty and selfless discipline can be seen in how people support their society, their craft, and their communities. This is why the image of the samurai remains so uniquely powerful. They were not just primitive killers who ruled by brute force. They were brainy, disciplined, and deeply philosophical. They showed the world a completely different way to be a warrior, a path where training your mind is just as important as sharpening your blade. They truly lived as the ultimate philosopher warriors. And that is exactly why, even centuries later, the whole world still stops to look at the samurai with deep respect. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the mind of the samurai, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out our other videos on your screen right now. Until next time, keep seeking your own internal peace.